What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and if you've been saving up your fab budget or your waiver wire priority, this is the week to use it. Today, we're going to talk through 10 to 15 must-add waiver wire targets for week 5 of the fantasy football season. If you enjoy this video, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Let's get straight into it. We have a lot of players to get into, and up top, first, we're going to talk through Dontayvion Wicks. Now, the first 5 or so players, I'll let you guys know when we're out of priority range, but these are guys that I am dropping 15% plus of my fab budget or my top 1 to 3 waiver wire priority or whatever. I got to be honest, I don't play in those leagues, but if you're sitting on waiver wire priority, I think that this is the week to use it. Dontayvion Wicks being my number 1 ad of the week. We have Christian Watson. He goes down with an ankle issue. It's going to sideline him for a few weeks, and that opens the door for Dontayvion Wicks, where his only issue thus far in the league has just been getting on the field and running routes. He was somebody on this channel. We do the rookie receiver report every single Monday, and he popped last year. The issue is that he was a rotational 4th wide receiver, but he hit all the thresholds we were looking for last season. He had a 20% plus targets per out run, 2+ yards per out run, 10% plus first downs per out run, and a 77.8 PFF grade. For a 5th round rookie, sharing snaps with Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, just being in that offense, that is really, really impressive stuff. And now this week, he runs 80% of the routes because Christian Watson goes down. He gets a 29% target share, 13 targets, 5 catches, 78 yards, and I want to say 2 touchdowns as well. He was an absolute monster. And we're going to get this usage moving forward. He gets the Rams this week, then he gets Arizona, 2 really light matchups. He is a top 30-ish wide receiver option in those matchups, and top 30 doesn't sound that sexy, but most leagues, right, are 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex. That's a guy you're starting every single week. You can now pick up off waivers. He's attached to Jordan Love. There's a lot to like here, and there's also a lot of upside as well. We will show some stats here. 1 by Dwayne McFarland. He has 3 games so far, Dontayvion Wicks, with a 70% or better route participation. So that just means on passing plays, he's running a route 70% of the time, and he is averaging, about 20 points per game in those 3 games. Now, of course, we're not expecting him to average 20 points per game, but it's just a really big positive that when he's on the field, he's out there dominating, right? 15.7 fantasy points, 24.1, 23.8. You, of course, have this tweet from Ryan Heath as well. Target shares this week after Christian Watson left the game, he was at 25%. Now, I think Jaden Reed also gets a huge bump from this. He's obviously not on waivers, and he's obviously nothing to sneeze at, but when he's been on the field, Dontayvion Wicks has been an absolute monster. Now, moving on from Wicks, our next best option is probably Kareem Hunt. We had a situation here where Carson Steele fumbles, and after that, we had 16 Kareem Hunt touches, 5 for Pirine, 1 for Carson Steele. You can see the utilization report below this John Daigle tweet as well, where Kareem Hunt had the best utilization across the board over on Fantasy Life, where he had 43% of the snaps, 58% of the rush attempts. He ran some routes, got some targets. We should see more usage moving forward where he's now going to be the lead guy. Pirine's probably going to be a little bit annoying on 3rd downs and 2-minute drills, but if Kareem Hunt can get the goal line usage and the between the 20s touches and get 15 plus touches per game in this offense, that's going to be really valuable. I will say Carson Steele probably droppable at this point. He's kind of in the doghouse. And I will also mention these guys aren't priority guys. I'm not using a ton of fab or waiver wire priority, but if you want to just scoop them up in deep leagues, Samaje Perine worth an ad as the pass catching back in this offense. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he is eligible to return in week 5. He has the most experience in this offense. We shall see how that goes. Now, our next priority ad here is Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon, not the sexiest ad in the world, but we do get a Jonathan Taylor injury, sadly. He has a high ankle sprain. This is from Football Guys. Adam Hutchinson does a article every week on the injuries that happen in these games. JT is projected to come back in week 7. So that should be, 1 to 2 games of Trey Sermon, which isn't bad at all, especially just given his usage in this last game, where from Dave Richard here, you had 73% Jonathan Taylor snaps, 25% for Sermon, just 2% for Tyler Goodson, and 8 out of 15 snaps on 3rd down for Trey Sermon. So he is not just a between-the-tackles grinder, kind of like we probably all profile him in our heads. If he's going to get all of the rushing work and then also like half of the 3rd down and pass catching situations, that's a guy you can start every week. So if you're in a pinch, if you have JT, If you have one of these guys that have gone down, if you have a bye week for one of these running backs, I know that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are on bye this week, and you're in a must-win situation, Trey Sermon's a great add as well. And then we will also add Xavier Legette to our priority ads list here. Of course, he is in Carolina, but he had a monster week. He had 16.6 fantasy points. He had 10 targets, 6 catches, 66 yards, a touchdown. He is now at 18% targets per out run on the entire season. He runs 88% of the routes. He had a 25% target share in this one. And we really want to be targeting these rookie wide receivers because, as we know, shout out to Jack Miller here, as the season goes on, rookie wide receivers produce more and more. And this was the first time that Xavier Legette got up over 60% of the routes. And of course, he got to 88%, fully leapfrogging Jonathan Mingo, which we actually hinted at on the Patreon last week. Make sure you check it out, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. I will have a fab article out as soon as I post this video. I will start writing it and it'll be out a couple hours afterwards. But you can see here, after Jawan Jennings, who was the biggest waiver wire ad of the week, our second best wide receiver ad last week was Xavier Legette, right? I said Andy Dalton's in, Adam Thielen's on IR, Legette wheels up. He has shown he can command targets, just needs to beat out Mingo, and he beat out Mingo last week and is already a guy that you can put into your lineup with big season-long upside. Again, patreon.com/Ron Stewart for my waiver wire article every single week. Now, our last priority ad here, somebody we mentioned last week. He shouldn't be on waivers at all, but he is available in about 55% of ESPN leagues. It's Braelon Allen. There's not a ton to say here. Again, we've talked about it every single week, but he is outplaying Breece Hall on a per-carry basis. You can see here, 4.8 yards per carry to 3.1. He's beating him in pretty much all of those metrics. And then he also is pushing for a goal line role here, where it's getting very loud in New York. As someone that has their finger on the pulse of Jets fans, they are very upset that Breece Hall got 2 straight on the second and one sequence on the goal line there. They didn't score. Braelon Allen comes in on 3rd and 1, play action. Solomon Thomas is the fullback. He leaks out, and that was like the designed play call. People just wanted Braelon Allen up the middle, and he probably punches that in because he's 240 pounds. So we could see moving forward, the Jets are not a great team. They listen to feedback. I think we're going to see more Braelon Allen on the goal line. So he's somebody that you can honestly start as like a fringe RB3 every week if you're down bad at running back. Now, after this, we're just going to talk through normal ads. These are not guys that I'm splashing a ton of fab on or guys that I'm using high waiver wire priorities on, but let's just talk through the running backs overall. We have, of course, first up, Rico Dowdle. He outtouches Zeke Elliott this week 12-8. The issue is that their fullback, Hunter Lepke, had 2 rushes, 2 targets, and he ran more routes than Dowdle. He's out there sometimes on passing downs as the lone back in the backfield. That is not good. So Dowdle, for now, he's the RB34. He's available in like 60% of leagues. He's a touchdown-dependent RB3, but he is trending up. I will say somebody that shouldn't be on waivers, but again, we're doing anybody under 50% owned on ESPN. You have Tyler Algier. I will say Bucky Irving is just over 50% owned, but of course, he actually would be in the priority section, like we listed with Braelon and all of them earlier, as somebody to pick up as the tides kind of turned there in Tampa between him and Rachaad White. Tyler Algier, he is out efficiency, or he is doing better efficiency-wise than Bijan Robinson. He out-touched him this week 8-7. He has, in terms of carries, he has 6 yards per carry at this point. He is a handcuff that has to be rostered everywhere. Similar story with Roschon Johnson as well. There was no snaps for Khalil Herbert this week, which is actually a good thing for Roschon, not good for Khalil Herbert, that this backfield is now down to a 2-man split. The issue is that DeAndre Swift played really, really well. He scored a long touchdown, but Swift through the first 3 weeks was the worst running back in the NFL. If he reverts back to that, it leaves the door wide open for Roschon Johnson, who has a really good archetype as like a 220-pound pass-catching back that can also get goal line work. And then we also have Tank Bigsby, who is one of 4. This shout out to, I think Ian Hartitz had this tweet. Tank Bigsby is one of 4 running backs. I want to say it's Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry to hit 20-plus miles per hour twice this year, and he is just a more efficient running back than Travis Etienne right now. He has better rush EPA, he has better success rate, he has better yards per carry, better rushing yards over expected. He has actually been pretty good this year. He is still kind of just a handcuff, but he is somebody that should be rostered. And then our last running back here that we'll mention is Jalen Wright from the Monday night game. Of course, the Dolphins suck, but he did hit 46% of the snaps, as we can see here from Fantasy Life's utilization report. He had 10 opportunities, which was a season high for him. The offense is bad. It wasn't efficient, but this is positive for Jalen Wright, and we should see Tua return around week 8 is what they're hinting at here. So Jalen Wright is somebody to keep an eye on for when this offense gets back on track. Then we'll switch to the wide receivers. And first up, we have Josh Downs, who would be one of the priority guys if his quarterback wasn't Anthony Richardson. Of course, with Joe Flacco, he goes off. He goes for 9 catches, 82 yards, a touchdown. He had 20.1 PPR points with Joe Flacco, according to Dwayne McFarland. Huge upgrade if you get Joe Flacco. The issue is that A-Rich seems like he's not going to miss more than even like 1 week here. So just kind of a speculative add. We will say high floor guy to add here, Wan'Dale Robinson. He's the wide receiver 22 right now on wide receiver 12 usage in terms of expected points per game, which is just based on your targets, your ADOT, how many points should you be putting up. He has a 28% target share. There's enough to go around after Malik Neighbors in this offense. Malik Neighbors will probably be out this week with the concussion. So he's somebody you can certainly flex. It's a 4.8 yard ADOT in terms of his usage, so it's not the prettiest stuff. You're kind of hoping for like a 7 catches for 50 yards and like maybe a touchdown is kind of his stat line. But I don't know. Jarvis Landry used to make a living doing the same thing in fantasy football. Then we have the Rams receivers I want to talk about. First up, Tutu Atwell. He's been over 12 PPR points in his last 2 games, and he was the guy that we said is the guy to own in LA. And then we have Whittington as well, who actually destroyed the receiver report this week, rookie receiver report, of course. And you can see he is right below Brian Thomas Jr. and above Keon Coleman. He hits all the thresholds we're looking for. He ran 97% of the routes this week, which is huge. 24% targets per outrun, 2+ yards per outrun, 10% plus first downs per outrun, and a 70+ PFF grade. He has been really good, and for as long as Puka and Kupp are out, he is somebody that is startable in fantasy football with huge upside as a rookie receiver, as we talked about earlier, just with the idea that rookie receivers get better as the season goes on. And the same idea holds true with Jalen Polk. It didn't end up in points for Jalen Polk, really, right? He only had 3 catches for 30 yards, but from the rookie receiver report, we can see he ran 87% of the routes, which was a season high, and then also 7 targets, a season high, 22% target share, season high. So he's trending upwards. But we do need Drake May to come in here soon for Jalen Polk to ever be startable. But he is worth a stash for sure, as a lot of these rookie receivers are. And then I do want to list out 1 tight end and 1 quarterback for this week for you guys to pick up if you're in need at those positions. First up, Tucker Kraft. He's the tight end 11 right now. He had 17.3 PPR points with Jordan Love this week. He's a fringe tight end 1 moving forward, especially now that Christian Watson is gone. It kind of consolidates things in Green Bay. He's not the sexiest guy in the world, right? We still have Reed ahead of him. You have Wicks ahead of him, probably Romeo Doubs ahead of him as well. So you're kind of just picking up the scraps there, but I do just want pieces of this offense, and Tucker Kraft is running routes attached to Jordan Love, which should stand for something. And then our quarterback stream of the week is Justin Fields. He's the QB6 so far. Available in what? 65% of leagues out there. He's coming off a 30-plus point game. He gets Dallas this week, who is allowing the 11th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. So Justin Fields, pretty good streamer there if he's on waivers in your league. As always, that is it. I don't want to spend too much time because it's a waiver wire video. You guys don't need the deepest of deep scoops here, but around 15 minutes, 10 to 15 players that you should be adding. And I try to, the reason that I list like 16 players, I get heat in the comments of like, this guy is not on waivers in my league. So the whole idea of this video is I try and cover all my bases, right? If you're in a more casual league, Braelon Allen's going to be on waivers, Wicks will be on waivers, Legette will be on waivers. If you're in a more competitive league, then it's time to look for your Tutu Atwells and your Jalen Polks and your Jordan Whittingtons and guys that are that fringe. So I try to help all of you guys out. Let me know if you have any feedback for the waiver wire videos. It's honestly the one that you guys are the most opinionated about in terms of like, Ron, none of these guys are on my waivers, but hope that helps. As always, again, as soon as I post this, I will be working on the waiver wire report and fab guide over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. You can find that in the description and the comment section down below. But if you can't support there, just leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, oh, ice around.